My name is Chris. I'm 76 at the time of writing this, but the events of this story took place at least 20 years ago when I was around 55 and 56. It was around 10:10 p.m. when a call came through from a strange, sketchy side of town. I, being the only cop on duty at the given time, was forced to go out alone. This side of town got at least 15 complaints a day, so to me it was no real surprise I'd been sent out here. But the specific house that I'd been sent to didn't seem to exist. I drove around aimlessly for about 10 minutes, before reaching the conclusion that it was most likely a prank call and nothing more. So I radioed dispatch and informed them that the house they'd sent me to didn't exist. I went about my patrol as usual until yet again another call from that same non-existent house was sent through, and I yet again had to go and check everything was okay out there. I drove to the given location only to find nothing. This time I got out of my car, flashlight in hand, and walked over to the woods. I scanned the tree line to see if maybe I'd missed a hidden path towards a house in the woods. Of course, I didn't see anything beyond the trees. I didn't want to go into those woods alone, so I got back in my car and radioed dispatch. Nothing. Bang! That's when I jumped at the sound of my tire popping. I'd never heard a sound like that coming from my car before in all my years of working as a cop. I wasn't about to stick around to find out what would happen next. I started driving as fast as I could down the road. Of course, the ear-piercing sounds of my tires scratching against the concrete was extremely distracting. I didn't want to find out who'd popped that tire, but that obviously isn't where the story ends. After all, that's not that scary. The very next day, after having my back tire replaced, I returned to work only to find another call from that house had come through. This time I was glad to know I wouldn't be experiencing that again alone. This time, another cop, John I think his name was, would also be coming with me. John was 27 and relatively new to the job, but still the kid was smart. That's unfortunately the only thing there is to be said about John. John and I reached the same wooded area. Having John with me had given me the confidence to enter and search those woods, so the two of us, flashlights in hand, entered the woods. We walked deeper and deeper until eventually I noticed an all too familiar smell: decay. Now, because we were walking around in the woods beside a road, it could have easily been an animal corpse, but considering what happens next, I don't think that's very likely. Me and John did discover something strange in the woods: a small house. We managed to break down the door with little effort. It looked like nobody had been in this house for ages. I automatically assumed this wasn't the house that the calls had been coming from, but that's when we discovered a mobile phone. Now, we knew someone had been here recently as the phone still had 67%. If that phone had been here for years, it probably wouldn't have turned on at all. We decided to look around the house. I didn't expect to really find anything, but I followed John inside. He scanned the bedrooms and bathrooms. I scanned the kitchen. Then John went into the basement alone. 5 minutes later, a horrible smell hit me, followed by John's horrified screaming. I then heard gunshots, and then silence. I immediately made my way to the basement stairs and listened carefully. I cautiously walked down the basement stairs, shining my flashlight down into the room. My heart skipped a beat as I stared down at a horrible sight before me. Piles of dead bodies lay on the floor, only hollow, like the organs had all been pulled out, and God knows what happened after that. I then saw the creature dangling from the ceiling. The creature was spider-like in appearance, with 8 skinny long legs, but unlike a spider, this thing had a mouth and teeth. Then I saw what it was holding: John, dangling by his legs as the creature feasted on his guts. Now I understood why he'd screamed the way he did. Considering he hadn't managed to kill this thing, I wasn't prepared to waste my bullets to try and kill this thing. Instead, I ran as fast as I possibly could, out the door and back towards my car. I jumped inside the car and drove away. I felt guilty for leaving John there, but John was as good as dead when I got there. I couldn't have saved the kid even if I'd tried. He'd have bled to death before I would have even managed to get him to a hospital. These events scared me so much I quit my job that same day. I decided now was a good time to say I hated being a cop and I hated basements. I'm sorry, John, that I couldn't save you. I'm sorry that I created the creature that killed you at such a young age. But you've got to understand, you died so nobody else had to. Your death saved the world. So long as I feed him, he'll stay in the basement. So long as I feed him, the world is safe. I want to thank Tiny Toes the First for this story.